Good evening, everybody, to the deeply unserious, probably no Georgia-related Bark After Dark. I mean, we get it out of the way off the top. Stay out of our comments.
Disclaimer. Listen, if you're tuning in for the latest on Georgia football, you have come to the wrong place. That is not what we do here. We have fun. We will talk probably some Georgia tonight with our guest, who we're very excited about. But do appreciate everybody who does tune in and appreciates what we're up to, man. What a week, Jake. Cold as hell.
Yeah, it's been cold, man. Like I had like 3 partially drunk water bottles in my truck when I got in there this morning. Every damn one of them were frozen.
Oh yeah,
just frozen solid.
So, what was your lowest? What'd you get down to?
I don't know. I don't really pay attention to it.
It got down to like 6 here.
Oh, okay.
It was.
So what happens to the Tennesseans up there?
Hey, you watch your mouth.
Hey, let's waste no time. Listen, the man that we're going to bring on tonight built a giant at BamaOnline. His name's Tim Watts. He loves malt liquor, and we're just glad to have him on.
All right.
What's up, Tim?
What's up, fellas?
Yeah.
I wore my Braves hoodie for you guys, even though I know you're both New York Yankee fans.
Oh, don't start with me.
Love some A-Rod. Jake tells me every day he loves some A-Rod. So
don't start with me now. Hey, listen, I love A-Rod when he likes to talk about bunting, like the A-Rod, the bunting expert. I love his bunting talk. Yeah. All that
sacrificing runners for the greater good. That's A-Rod. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on, Tim. We'd like to start this off, man. Just give the folks a little bit of background for the people who don't know T. Watts, as we got you so graciously identified as down here. Tell us a little bit about it, man. How did you get into this? Where are you from? Where does the Tim Watts story kick off, man?
I can tell you where that name came from, and it's Shannon Terry's. And he didn't even realize it. But they sent me
Tim, we curse on here, just so you know. Like we let it rip.
You're speaking my language, Jake.
Yeah, we let it. We let it rip.
I didn't want to get y'all banned or call the CEO a DA on this show, but I was on the verge. But so Shannon sends me a laptop. The office sends me a laptop, and it's always J. Roos. Well, this was T. Watts. And I sent it to him like being funny, like, you know what that spells, and he didn't even know. And then he started calling me T. Watts. And I created my own nickname accidentally. I thought it was funny. Shannon, everything Shannon gets goes to a message board or Twitter. So by starting this, I was running a college basketball service, recruiting rankings, loved it, go to AAU, did some 7-on-7, all that stuff. And kept having college coaches recommend me to people, and I had other companies interested in me, but Shannon Terry knew several basketball coaches. He had played at Lipscomb College. That was his first love. I love basketball as well. And he kept calling me, and he says, man, what's it going to take to get it done? And I was like, I'm not a great writer. He said, well, I can teach you to write. He said, we like scoop and the discussion, and you love the game and all of that. So he ended up getting me to join on at BOL. We had like 700, 800 subscribers at the time. And, it kind of just took off. I was running Rivals Hoops for him, and I was the main guy at BOL. Travis Reier joined me soon after. And Shannon just called me one day, and he said, dude, you just got to decide. Do you want to be on ESPN and doing recruiting rankings, or do you want to, own an Alabama website? And then he told me what they pay. And I went BOL only pretty soon after, and the rest is history. Still love hoops, but obviously love college recruiting and sports in general. I think Jake, and I'm sure Jake Roos, we share that in common. Like if sports are on, I'm watching it to some degree, and not so much Olympics like all the national guys tweet out. I don't know anything about curling. Don't really watch just the Wimbledon finals. I'm either watching Wimbledon or I'm not, but love sports and just got into it and, been forced into staying it this long and met a lot of my best friends. along the way, guys that I have a lot in common with.
Where are you from, Tim?
I went to Pelham High School. Actually, went to Dabo Sweeney, moved to Florida at the end of my high school life to live with my dad, and then live in Alabaster, not far from where Pelham is, just a few miles up the road. They call it Thompson University here. So, I mean, you're aware of the football programs at a different level in the state of Alabama. So never went too far from home.
Yeah, no, that's it's cool to see Pelham kind of come up. My dad's office was in Pelham. He lived in Birmingham.
Okay, good.
And he worked over in Pelham my whole life growing up. So
well, we lie and say we're from Birmingham usually
because of course.
Nobody knows where Pelham and Alabaster is. We say Birmingham, but then once somebody will say what part, and then I'll say, well, actually, and then sometimes they'll know it. A lot of times they'll know Hoover. Hoover's a big area. They'll know that. So that always makes the conversation easier.
It's like those people who say they live in Atlanta, but they live in Douglasville.
Yeah, it's like yeah. Pelham has came up a lot. Really? Yeah, yeah. You say their names, but I remember when Pelham, I don't know if who's back there, the other side of 31 was just all mud, and we rode motors, all dirt. It was muddy. We rode our motorcycles over there, and now everything's covered up with businesses and everything else. So I didn't know you connected over here. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So BamaOnline, all right. Take us through the stages of it. I mean, obviously it was there and you ran the Alabama site and all that stuff. And I know Shannon was involved with it early on, but like Alliance Sports, Rivals. I mean, did it start all the way at Alliance or did it come in the Rivals days?
I was right there when Rivals bought Alliance.
Okay.
And Shannon was part of that network where all the guys were together. And then Shannon rebought Rivals after he sold it to him. I came in right there. He didn't have a publisher. He didn't have anybody that really covered recruiting. The guy that was running BamaOnline had another job. Good guy, but his preference was he loved baseball. Good guy. He loved college. He loved college baseball. So Shannon kind of said, huh?
Cash cow, college baseball.
Yeah, hey, you can't, you love what you love. I mean, it's like, I'd have probably felt different if I didn't have two young kids with Shannon, maybe my offer though, but I had two young ones and I knew that the part-time gig was only and traveling back then. And I loved it, man. When I was with Rivals Hoops, I was going to Vegas and I was traveling. I had some of my best friends. One of my guys I grew up with was our video guy, Jerry Meyer, who I think we all love. Yeah. He was doing it with me, and Justin Young was a friend for me. I got to choose my own staff, travel, see hoops and all that stuff in the summer. But at some point, my wife was like, hey, now I got two. I want a third. We're going to shoot for that daughter. We had the daughter on the fourth one. So at some point, it was just easier being at home, being in the state. And also AAU basketball changed a lot from when I was covering it. Now it came, a little bit more of a mess. When I was covering it now, it didn't matter the shoe. You were at an event, we would get to see you.
Now you dropped a term on me the other day. You're talking about kids. Watts he dropped it called babies. He called them shit and spitting potatoes the other day.
When they're young, I never got to how cute and how fun they are. I'm like, they just look at me and I look at them and we're both drooling and have nothing to say to each other, I told my wife when they can point in that I remember with my oldest one, we had the pantry open and he was just screaming and pointing and I was grabbing like Cheez-Its and I was just going through everything. I picked everything up. He didn't want anything. And finally she walked in and said, what do you want to him? And whatever he said, she went to the fridge. And I was like, I feel like that's on him because he was pointing in the pantry. He was pointing in the pantry like it was in here. So I was running down and I guess he was thinking, no, stupid, that's not it. As we went, but she walked in, she said, Bryson, what do you want? He pointed, he said something, she went to the fridge. I said, that ain't on me. He's got to learn to communicate. That's on him. You know what I mean? I don't have any.
You made that bad. You need to lay it. I thought you were going to say you grabbed the. I was going to thought you were going to say you grabbed the Evan Williams or the Jim Beam, and he was like, "Yeah,
oh, man.
yeah."
My mom would get Benadryl. That's what I told my mom when I was over. She's like, "Y'all didn't have trouble sleeping." I said, "You put me to bed drunk every night." I said, "Benadryl. I always had an allergy, Mom. I couldn't have had an allergy every night at 7:30, 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah,
always itching." Put it on. Give that. I said, well, now they frown on that. It turns out, apparently. So
turns out
my wife won't let me do it.
Now, Tim, I'm curious. You said you started with the AAU circuit, man, and just kind of following that around. But obviously, I think football has kind of taken that turn too with the 7-on-7 game and all that. I mean, has that been, I don't know, has it been surprising to see the changes in football and to see them kind of adopt that same model that you kind of came up with in the basketball stuff?
Yeah, one of the first humongous 7-on-7s was at Hoover High School. I think that it was right here. Now, Texas is taking it to another level. They have it. They have a lot going on. Florida's already have it. The warmer states has always had it. I'm not surprised. It was funny the whole time when people were talking about the bags and football and the agents or the uncles or all that. I was like, that was just mother. That was called Friday in AAU basketball. We always had guys that we dealt with and talked to that knew the pulse. So it hasn't been a massive change for me with the 7-on-7. It makes sense. I love that it's a showcase to see cornerbacks and wide receivers, especially being in the South. You don't always get those big matchup schools, especially at the time. You had Hoover, who's pretty dominant. You had Prattville at one time that was pretty dominant. Now you have Thompson. But that's a chance to see guys that were like a quarterback in high school get that chance to be a DB or wide receiver at the 7-on-7 level so we could evaluate them. I've always enjoyed it. I like seeing kids compete, and that's part of the fun for me. So I'm not really surprised with the little changes that came along. And I hate the one thing I hate is the calendar. I hate the calendar. I think we all agree with we're following recruiting until 3 days before Christmas. I mean, it's bad for the college coaches. It's bad for the recruits. They're still dealing with it that long. They don't get the Christmas break we're used to. And then you get the Christmas break, and then you've got the late period signing, which is a little slower. But then you got the windows that open with the portal. And then when the coaches changes, obviously I'm dealing with that now. And we got the spring portal window. So the timing, just a lot of pressure on the guys. And I know a lot of people see them, they're grown because they're 6'5", 270, but they're still 19 years old. For the most part, you're only so mature at 19 years old. Now, some obviously are an exception, but most are the rule. Their mom is still washing their underwear.
I was a fucking moron at 19 years old.
Yeah.
I continue to be at 37 as well. So it's not like that changed.
Hey, I understand that.
So taking you back to those AAU days, for those of you, obviously nobody's going to know this, but if Tim ever texts me and I tell him I'm anywhere but home, like I can be, in Danville, Kentucky, and Tim will have a food wreck. Tim will have well, man, hey, there's a mom and pop joint off of 17. Is that where you're kind of, because both of us are food tourists, we love to travel. Is that where that came from for you?
No, I just want people to eat right. A lot of times I'm just using Google. You know what I mean? Everybody, people they're like, wow, you should run your own company. I said, yeah, I'm gonna call it like TripAdvisor. You know what I mean? Like I'm already gonna. I might call it Yelp because apparently y'all don't know about it because y'all think I'm smart and I'm gonna let it ride. But no, when I'm on the road, in the state, I pay no attention. But yeah, when I travel, I want to find the. If I'm in Chicago, I want a Chicago dog, right? If I'm in New York, I want New York style pizza. If you're in Atlanta, that's an area they can get it all day and all night, but in the South where I'm from in Alabaster, you can't really find that kind of stuff. So I'm there. I like to enjoy it. If I'm in Italy, I'm not eating wings. You know what I mean? I'm not eating. We actually did eat wings in Rome last year. At the end of it. Hey, I'll be honest. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you guys because I like y'all. I know your fans hate me half the time, but I like y'all anyway. We were on day 19 or 18 of a trip to Italy. It was my last month at 24/7. I was coming here, so we were blowing it out, and we had Italian food 2 times a day for 17, 18 days. So when my youngest son said, hey, there's a wings place, I was like, I hate. And then we went and ate wings and burgers and everything else. So
I get that totally, man. When I went to Africa, I did 6 weeks. I did 6 weeks in Africa, wow. And then we did like 2 weeks over in Europe at one point too. And the thing that I missed most was Mexican food. Yeah, I couldn't believe it's here. You throw a rock, you can run into one. So
yeah,
but I craved Mexican food. They don't know about queso over there, man. They haven't figured that one out yet.
We did a cruise and we got off in a place in Mexico and went for Mexican food. And I was like, this don't taste right. My wife's like, this is Mexican food, dummy. I'm like, I'm gonna have to disagree with you here. You know, like is there Taco Bell? I feel like these people right here are missing it. She's like, no, this is literally it. Salsa came out. It was chopped up onions and tomatoes and stuff. I was like, they didn't do this right.
Well, I do have to say, Tim Watts gave me the best food rec I've ever had. GW Fins in New Orleans. If you haven't been, you got to go. You got to go. If you know you're going to New Orleans, go online and book your reservation like before your trip even starts. You got to get that res in because that's a place where I feel lucky to be there when I go there. So
yeah,
only time I've ever
recommended that place to. You know, we loved New Orleans for years. When we had the kids, we had 4 not too far apart. So we basically went to Destin or New Orleans. And in New Orleans, I've recommended GW Fins. We went there a lot. I mean, 60, 70 times. I've never heard anything but A+ reviews. They really do it right there in New Orleans, and it's a good blend. But yeah, I like to recommend, especially if I've been there. I mean, we're going to Spain in May, and I mean, one of the first we build the block around the tours, the excursions we're going to do, and what we're going to eat.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
absolutely. I gotta ask, if I'm coming to Tim Watts's hood right now, where am I eating? Where what's your restaurant recommendation in the neighborhood, man?
We've got a really good place right around the corner called Champy's. Pretty original. I think it's a chain. It has 7 or 8, but they have original tamales, Mississippi tamales that are fantastic. Their fried chicken, I know it sounds crazy because, look, I love Popeyes. Their fried chicken takes about 25 minutes to cook. Now, these people at Champy's, they soak theirs for like 24 hours. It's fantastic fried chicken. It's really good. Kids love it, have a lot of sides on there. Otherwise, I mean, we're pretty staple. My wife's been, she went to war when it got cold. She came in, I looked up every other day, she's got 2 or 3 crock pots working. She will cook it in the morning. She's found, I mean, look, white bean chili, regular chili, vegetable beef stew. It's great and it's easy. She can freeze it, pull it out when we're hungry. So she's really did a good job. So I haven't really ate fast food in a long time, but I'm kind of a Taco Bell kind of staple guy.
Oh yeah.
I'll just jump in there and, I don't care what the meat's made of. And I mean, these people, when I don't care, I don't ask the questions, I know it comes out.
I can't remember the last time I ate Taco Bell and didn't think, this is horse meat.
Yeah. I like horse. I mean, apparently
I've gotten away from the meat at Taco Bell. You can get anything made vegetarian. I just get black beans instead of the meat, and then I don't have to think about it.
Watts, I got to tell you, there used to be a Champy's in Athens. Yeah, and it moved out not too long ago. Me and my man Jake Roos drank a mini of beer and ate a mini of chicken thigh at Champy's. I mean, a mini.
It's a really good place. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say I drove home from Champy's probably a couple times that I should not have. They got the 40-ounce beers.
They have live music. They used to have crawfish. I haven't seen that lately. You used to go up there and get the crawfish they had, and that might have. Okay. I don't know if they quit doing that or if they're out of season, but yeah, it's a good, easy place. We got another place called LA Burrito right around the corner in a strip mall. It's very authentic. It's really good. And they've stuck around in a spot that the past 5 or 6 restaurants haven't been able to make it. They've been there 3 or 4 years, so it's did good. But I mean, for the most part, in Alabasters, I mean, you're looking at most of the chains, Olive Garden, Jim and Nick's, that kind of stuff. So not a lot of original stuff, and that's what we're used to. Pretty much normal. That's why when we're out of Alabaster, we're hitting it up pretty big. We're hitting it pretty hard, anyways.
Yeah, no question. Well, we've already got a couple questions over here, Tim. So we should probably get into it. And
sure,
people want to know, how is Bama taking it, man? How are the fans? If you're a subscriber of DawgsHQ, you can go over and read BamaOnline. But if you're not a subscriber of DawgsHQ, how's it going, man? I mean, obviously Nick Saban is Nick Saban, dude. So there's no replacing Nick Saban. How has the transition gone though for most?
I think it's been an ebb and flow. I mean, I understand Alabama fans because they couldn't get a 24-hour window of enjoyment. I mean, anything that happened, good, the bad countered. You know what I mean? And, I think they finally just realized with Caleb Downs and Proctor, Kaden Proctor hit the portal that it is what it is. You're going to have to trust this to play itself out. I think that was the nail in the coffin. Like, all right, we're just going to have to ride it out. That was the worst part of it. But obviously, Nick Saban retired on the day he was doing interviews with other college coaches. I mean, surprise roster, a surprise staff. I think it comes down to the personality on what they think. If you're a positive person, glasses half full, they think it's going to be all right. And they think they did a good job. If they're a negative person, I think they think the glass is definitely half full, or maybe the glass is even broken for some of them. Some of them are really, really mad about everything that happens. But for me personally, I've just taken a wait and see approach. We've never seen in this era the greatest of all time retire. I mean, it's the first time we've seen it in a social media. I mean, there's been great coaches. Obviously there's been great coaches, but in a day and age with every social media and everything else going on, we've never seen it. So kind of a surprise, a playoff team, a number 2 class on the heels of a number 1 class. It didn't really end the way that most people predicted. Most people thought, you look at Bobby Bowden and it was kind of a decline, and Bear Bryant, there's kind of a decline. Nick Saban was still right about where he was every year when this happened. So I think it just comes down to personality. Some are very upset. Some are okay. I think a little good news, getting some Washington portal guys this week helped. I think the surprise is the most. And I'll tell you, y'all Braves fans, so I know you got this. Do you remember when the Braves were trying to sign Freddie Freeman, and all of a sudden it was announced they traded for Matt Olson? Because I saw it on DawgsHQ. I saw it on the Georgia and Alabama sites because I know there's a lot of Braves fans. They lost their mind. You would have thought they signed me at first base. And I was like, no. This guy's an all-star. He hits dingers, guys. Chill out. He's got an okay glove. Relax. And then when they figured out, oh, this guy's not bad, he's cheaper and he's 5 years younger, they were okay. But just the other day, Alabama got a commitment from a quarterback named Austin Mack. And the responses were, who the hell was he? And I hate it. What is going on? And I was like, those sentences can't go together. You don't know who he is and you hate him. So it took a few minutes for me to scramble. I was like calling Charles Power, our national guy, digging into the history. The kid is 17-year-old. He's going to be 18 in June. So he's already spent a full year in college. He skipped his senior year out of the blue. But I think that reaction of not knowing is what, and right now I think they believe the Bama coaches can coach. They don't know if they can recruit. Some will say anybody can recruit, and others will say there's no way they can recruit. You don't have all the Southern guys you need. So kind of down the middle. I think it depends on the moment.
It's almost like that Caden Proctor and that Caleb Downs situation was like, hey, I got a new truck and I finally got a couple dents in it, and now we can kind of relax and drive this thing like we're supposed to. It did seem like that kind of calmed them down a little bit. It's like, hey, it's not going to get much more tumultuous than losing 2 guys like that.
I will tell you, I know this will sting a little for the Dog fans, but what really helped was Proctor. We were reporting he's homesick, and they're like, yeah, homesick. You don't spell homesick without NIL. That was the whole running, and that's a pretty funny one I stole from the guy. But he did end up at Iowa. Now, if he'd ended up at Ohio State or Michigan, they'd have been upset. And also Caleb Downs going to Ohio State because they went straight to – they got T-Rob to get Caleb Downs. I'm like, poor T-Rob's just getting like, T-Rob, get Caleb or we're firing you. I was like, hey, hard. I think those things relaxed them a little because their worst fear is obviously going to programs they're going to compete against or going against programs they consider that they're equal. That would obviously – so that helped that they actually went, in different directions and out of the South.
If it makes you feel any better, Georgia fans are ready to fire T-Rob over not bringing Caleb Downs.
Yeah, I mean,
they were ready to fucking fire me. they wanted to fire me and Rusty and you and everybody. They called one guy. I put him on the road immediately. He called us charlatans. he thought we had baited him into signing up for. I don't know what to tell you, dude.
Yeah, I read y'all's reporting, and you felt Georgia had a good shot, and that's what happened to me with Eric Gilbert. And in hindsight, all those people saying, "Tim, I can't believe you got this wrong." Well, do you still think it? Does Eric look like he's an easy guy to predict? By the way? Yeah. All right, so we're going to watch shade. 37 other coaches couldn't figure it out at the end, but I saw the case. Go ahead, Jake.
No, it was just a hard one to figure out. You were talking about Eric Gilbert. That was a hard one to figure out, man.
Yeah, and Caleb's a guy. The thing about Caleb Downs is he's a guy that holds his own counsel. That's the thing. He's grown. He's not telling a lot of people what. I'm sure he spoke to his closest people, his dad or all those. But I think it was a very small group that knew what he might do. So it's hard. You're really just going with, the visits. I saw he was meeting for them for dinner pretty close to when he ended up announcing or something. So, I mean, in this business, you kind of go with what you know, follow the visits and all that stuff. But so that helped a little.
What about T-Rob, man? I'm curious. Georgia fans still kind of obviously they're familiar with him, but I mean, what can you tell us about him?
I think he did a good job at Alabama. I mean, I think that he helped with the play call this year, and he did a good job of recruiting and keeping helping keep that class together before he left, especially in the first time. I mean, because I know it happens to the Georgia roster, but there's a ton of tampering. There's a lot of kids being recruited right off your campus, and I know Georgia had some, drama with young DBs. Bama had some drama with people coming after them and, getting in their ear. And, again, right before that deadline, you got the kids at home for Christmas. There's no telling who's knocking on the door, So, I mean, it's just the whole thing's a mess. But I thought T-Rod did a good job. I think he was well liked by the Alabama staff. I think he worked hard. I know he's got a relationship with Will Muschamp, so that'll help. But I think he'll fit right in. I know Fran Brown left huge shoes to fill as a recruiter. He was a monster recruiter. I wasn't as familiar with him until the end when he was at Georgia. But, T-Rob, I think he's going to do a good job. He's going to work hard. And, the Georgia defensive guys with Schumann and Kirby, they're going to take the reins on a lot. But T-Rob's got a lot of experience, has been a coordinator. So I think it was a good get for Georgia.
Look at us talking.
So you've been around this for a long time. A very, very long time. Share with us one of your best recruiting, one of your weirdest, wackiest, whether it's a granddad picking up an NLI and running with it or whatever. What's kind of the one that takes the cake for you?
I tell you, the oddest to me, it's not as dramatic as most people think, but first I had Tim Tebow's mom and I got really close in the recruiting process. I get a phone call from her, and she called him Timmy, which was funny. And she talked about like if you didn't know him, you'd have thought he's a little baby carrying around the way she talked about Timmy. And she was worried to death Hoover was going to hurt him, Hoover High School, because they played him that year. And I was like, who's going to hurt him? I mean, he's like, he's built like a tank. I would think more people are worried about their children than you should worry about yours. And then she told me that Neil Caudill, if y'all remember him, he was an Auburn quarterback signee, went to Spain Park. He had got hurt a couple of years in a row against Hoover. She was friends with Neil Caudill's mom. So she was calling me. So I had a great relationship with Tim Tebow. I had running coverage of him, one of the wildest recruitment around. And then the second ties into that is one night, it's like 2:00, especially when I was younger. I was call kids till 9, 10 o'clock, write the stories till 12 o'clock, have them ready for the morning. And then I'd get, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, get my peace time. No kids, no wife. I can handle the remote control myself. One night, it's about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. I see somebody pull up to my mailbox. I see him stop, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And I mean, I'm getting paranoid. Like, I don't know. I mean, my first thoughts were a rival fan or somebody's pipe bomb. I'm pretty much thought way too much of myself. You know what I mean? Like, in hindsight, I was like, I'm not sure they blow up my mailbox. I feel like that's a firecracker. I don't think we need, to figure out how to make that. And I go out there and get that. Finally, I look around the corner and I get the tape out. It's Neil Caudill's senior highlight tape. Oh, wow. Dropped it off in the middle of the night. And I was like, and Alabama wasn't even recruiting him really. They weren't even really evolved. He was going to Auburn. But that was a wild time. That was back, with Andres. For Bama, it was different because they didn't have 5 stars. It's absurd where they got, because at the time it was a win recruiting wise just to get Tim Tebow on campus, Andre Smith and Takeo Spikes. And then later on, you go from that. I remember trying to, we used a lot of words like sleeper and, underappreciated and, under the radar with Mike Shula, who did do a good job. He gave Alabama Andre Smith, Rolando McClain, some of those guys, to Nick Saban just pouring on the 5 stars. So it was quite the turnaround. And also even, for my run in this business, Alabama went from DeBose to Shula. I lost a coach driving to an AAU tournament. Like when texting was new, you used to have to press 1 for A, 2 for B, 3 for C to get to C.
Yeah. T9 word, man.
So people would send you text with 4 words because they just didn't have the energy to type it all out. And it was like Mike Price gone, prostitute, hotel. And I'm driving to Houston and I'm looking at this flip phone what the Like, what is that? I thought maybe he's recruit somebody. You know, I didn't understand. I called and they were like, you're not going to believe this. And I was like, literally, I don't believe it. But so, and then you get for 17 years, you know.
That was something I definitely wanted to ask you about. Now, I do have to ask you this. I mean, how many texts have you gotten from Rusty Manzel that are just like that in the iPhone era?
Yeah, oh yeah, Rusty. Yeah, the Rusty haiku. I don't know how Rusty texts. Why are 7 words on 4 lines? Like, I don't understand what he'd be doing. Like, I don't understand how that happened. Like, is he yelling shift like an old does he like the old typewriters? Is he like ding and pushing it over? What is happening with my
Jeff?
Guy? Yes, shift.
The William Wadsworth Longfellow of recruiting writers.
I know that could have been a sentence, but I look at that. No, it could have been a sentence with a period.
He is, dude. Stop. He is.
I'll tell you what he's doing now. That's even more hilarious. Is he sends the voice text. Watts.
Yes.
And he's talking for 38 seconds. It's funny. My wife likes to listen because he's so funny, but. Rusty's such a good guy. And Jake and Rusty literally are 2 of my favorites. That's the irony. Like when they're mad on my board at Jake or Rusty or whoever, we you know, we're best friends. We've been knowing each other forever. You know, getting to know you, Jake, getting to know Palmer. You know, that's a big part in Palmer getting a job, and just a lot of respect for you guys. And they're the same way about me. So when they're saying like they hate us, or that like and then they're like, I know y'all can't really get along, and I'm like. It's like the one guy said, and I told Rusty this night I was going on the show. He's like, Tim, I don't care what you say. You might like Rusty's a homer. And I said, well, both things could be true. I never said Rusty wasn't a dog fan. Like, shoot, like, what you mean? Like, I like him. He just likes Georgia. Like, we don't call each other and text each other mean. You know, me and Jake's never like text each other, ha ha.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we don't really get into that. I mean, even if we did, it would be tongue in cheek, you know.
It was I can't remember it was the national championship game. It was the 17 national championship game or the 18 SEC championship game. Like I look down and I've got a text from Watts like moments after the game's over. He goes, "What a shitty way to lose." You know, and it was empathetic. I mean, it wasn't or what a bad way for that to go down. It was
I lived through the kick six, so when you live through the kick six, you know what I mean? You got to like give that love to somebody else. Now, Auburn's got the 4th and 31. Y'all had that 2 and 26. I mean, we've all got losses are okay, but dude, the bad beats, you know, the play. And you know what's so bad is every time you play them, that's going to get live coverage. But like the Alabama and Auburn games, Bama fans like, I can't watch it. That kick six is coming. I'll be honest, I don't look either. I look away and hit mute, say, is it over? You know, is that over yet? So, so I get it. You know, speaking of what Jake said, it was just a sack touchdown was just bananas. But Rusty Manzel on that touchdown texted me within 2 minutes the photo he took of Smitty scoring, just so y'all understand, like, the fans to understand the friendship and the professionalism. We're talking behind the scenes on these recruits. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of us going, you know, Rusty's an idiot, Tim's an idiot. We're kind of talking just like we handled the T-Rob situation. You know, me and Jake and Rusty were talking, and you know, T-Rob took the job on Saturday. You know, and then Sunday he was interviewed by Alabama, and Monday he stayed with Georgia. So, you know, we're just trying to do the best coverage we can, and you know, we can't really control the football games. They never asked me to call a play. They probably ought to at different times.
You know, that's part of the reason we started this show, man, was because we're friends with everybody, right? Like even on our own, especially on our own beat, like people think that there's this like hyper competitive, and it's a competitive market. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But we spend enough time with each other, man. These become your friends. I mean, you're all there for the same purpose. And these guys, you know, they like to go out and have a drink. They like to go have a nice meal. I mean, so I assume the Bama beat is very similar in that regard.
Yeah, you know, for me, I think the ones we hate are the ones that tie the ones that we like each other together. You know, there's always a guy or two we can't stand, and we all kind of bond at the water cooler about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, to me, it's just, you know, it's a job. I mean, I know people have wives and kids and lives and like TV show and like sports. I mean, I've got a lot in common with a lot of people in our industry. I don't let it get, personal, and I don't deal with personal. Look, I grew up, I had 3 brothers. 2 of them were big Tennessee fans. And when they were kicking Alabama around for 11 years or whatever it was, they didn't say a word to me. 1, I'm violent, especially at that age. But 2, they just didn't want to, they knew I hated losing and it bothered me. They didn't want to rub it in. So when Alabama flips the script, I've never said, talk to them. Our comments are, like I hate orange. Can't really tell now. But I used to have really red hair. Of course I hate orange. That doesn't work on me. There's nothing like I hate like the color. My wife looks great in it. I look terrible in it. So it's not anything personal. I didn't like, what, Clemson, I hate your orange. No, I just, I don't like orange. But yeah, I think that, part of it's the camaraderie. And if they saw all of us at like a convention or the boys trip we do, they'd see it was different. I think they'd like us much better. And YouTube's helped that a lot. I've had people that saw some of y'all or some of the other guys on other sites on YouTube and realized they don't have horns. You know what I mean? And they don't have tattoos that, I hope Bama dies or, any of that stuff. I think it helps for just normal. Now, I'm not going to say we're normal. We're normal by this business standards. We still got our idiosyncrasies, I think, here. Like Jake's,
there ain't any doubt about it. What's that?
I said, like Jake's handkerchief. I've been messing with him about.
Hey, like I said, it's bigger than it looks. It's my head that makes it look small. It's my great big old dome, and
we don't have a cure for the head. We don't have a cure for the head.
Got to get it. I'll tell you right now. I've got the giant head. When I used to teach high school, there was this girl in the hallway. She used to make fun of how big my head was, and she just yelled at me one day in the hallway, and she goes, "Coach Rowe, where your neck at?" In front of about 200 other students. So it was.
I'm glad the way that went, because when you started out with, I'm going to tell y'all something. I got this big head, but I thought, where's this going?
Yeah.
Like, where is this? Know. What's coming next? I've heard the big
Bark
feet.
After Dark sometimes.
I've heard about the big feet theory, but I've never heard the big head. I thought Jake was taking me in the alley, but it got uncomfortable.
About to be an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. All right, so we ask questions to everybody. We each have a question we ask everybody before we send them off. And I'll go first. Hey, listen, you're dead. Imagine that you've died. You've left us, but you get a chance to kind of plan your own deal, send your own self off. Who's giving Tim Watts the homecoming? Comedian, singer, songwriter, poet, Rusty. Who?
I hope it would be someone who just didn't care a lot about me, would have some levity about the situation, like a Bill Burr. I've told Rusty and Shay Dixon that to save all the dumb tweets and all the dumb TikToks, saw some this week, and play that at my funeral. I don't want you to say nothing else. I want you to play all the things we laughed about when we shared jokes and we sent each other text and all the stuff that made us laugh. Because I know a lot of you guys will be in there dying laughing, including my wife, who, by the way, Rusty Manzel died laughing at something that happened the other day and sent me a 13-second video of him laughing. And it was look, I kept it because no lie. I'm in a bad mood. I played Rusty because it was the most genuine. I'm telling you, it's the most genuine laugh. Y'all heard Rusty, that genuine laugh that makes you love him. He played it. It was hilarious because I was sitting in there and Rusty sent it and I played it. And he's like, "What?" And he's dying laughing. And my wife came out of the bathroom where she was flossing her teeth and she looked at the TV like, "What happened?" And I was like, "No, that's Rusty." And she said, "What happened?" I showed her what she was laughing at. She was dying laughing. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I'll probably just cremate me and make a post on my board or something. I'm gonna be a simple guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, listen. If you give me your login after you go, I'll just keep posting on your board under your name
from beyond the grave.
They would love it.
Y'all behave. Y'all behave. Get your shit together.
We'll get a Tim Watts AI set up to do this from beyond the grave. We'll just keep your voice going.
I think when I'm gone, they're done with me. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good run. We enjoyed him. We don't need him. We don't need reincarnated. Just let him go.
Well, Tim, my question for everybody, and I'm excited to hear your answer to this because you're a traveler. You're a guy who's been around a lot. I know that, covering basketball and football and traveling the world, you stay in a lot of places, man. So my question for everybody is, what is the worst hotel room that Tim Watts has ever stayed in?
Oh, that's easy. So we were going to catch – I used to do all the Nike camp photos. I'm a man of many talent, dog fans. You need to be friends with me. I got skills. I got stuff to teach you youngsters who hate me. So I was going to shoot the Nike camp, and we were having Penn State and Michigan. And we missed our connecting in Detroit. And it's, God bless. I hate that airport to this day.
Yeah, that airport's rough.
They sent me literally to rent by the hour hotel. I slept on top of the covers and still thought that's probably the wrong answer. I was going to strip the sheets off and lay on the mattress, which I shouldn't have looked under the sheets on the mattress. Everything about it was bad. It literally was rust water, every single thing about it. I hated it. I couldn't sleep. I ended up going there, to the Nike camp, and we were leaving from Michigan to go to Penn State. And then when I get on the plane connecting, they got to literally spin the propeller. I mean, it was the spots like, are we about to spray the crops? What the hell? I mean, what is happening here? This thing, it's a seatbelt like I'm in an old El Camino. It's just around my waist. I'm not putting it on. It's not saving me. That's going to prolong my misery. I'm going to go straight out. It was by far the worst. It was scary. The lights were on. It was noisy in the hallway. It was miserable. I'd missed my flight. That's the only really bad experience I've had, but it was a 10 on a scale of 10 of I hate the world right now. Very upset.
Nobody ever forgets. That's what I've learned in asking this question. Almost nobody forgets the worst hotel room they ever stayed in.
Yeah. I mean, for one, I planned it out really well. So if it's my trip, we do a lot of research, especially if we're traveling with the kids. And two, obviously, I had no control over that, which made it even worse. In hindsight, I did have control over it because I had a whole rival's ass budget to go wherever the crap I wanted. And I'm so stupid. I get loaded up on the short bus they had for me with everybody else and wheeled over here. I could just taxi to a nice hotel.
Sure.
Yes, I could have. That might have been a little on me. Like Bryson when he didn't tell me what he wanted to eat. That might have, in hindsight, I think that was on me, not on I feel like I could have handled that better.
Maybe this was a good therapy session. Maybe we got some stuff out.
I feel like the dog fans really, really have met me in the middle. I can feel the love right now.
Absolutely.
Until I post a single update or say Bama might go 11-1 next year, and then we're back to normal.
Bark after dark, bringing people together. That's the tagline.
That's what we do here.
That's what we do. Do what we do.
Hey man, we appreciate you coming on, and you're an hour behind us, so you got a little bit more of your evening to a little bit more of an excuse to come on than people in the Eastern time zone who, waste their entire evening talking to us. So
hey, I loved it, man. I appreciate it. I enjoy you guys. Dog fans are in great. I love the site. Read the site every day. Not as much as BOL, but it's right up there with the LSU site. I read those three the most. Just enjoy the content. It's in the SEC. There's a lot going on, coaches, recruiting, a lot of matchups with Bama and a lot of things. So love what you guys do over there.
We appreciate it, man. And can't wait to link up with you soon.
All right. You guys holler at me anytime.
All right. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you, man.
Tim Watts delivered. Funny show, man. Funny stuff. Tim's awesome. He's if you can believe it or not, he's even better. Our little pre-show talk was awesome. He's even better talking to him 5-6 times a week.
I remember a time in the not so distant past where you did not enjoy talking to Tim.
Hey man,
Watts.
let me tell you something. When I first came over to 24/7 and got to know Tim had to teach me how to work, and Tim got after me a little bit, and now we're good friends. At the time, it was Tim had to Tim had to whip me into shape. I was raised by wolves.
I remember it well, dude. I remember some of those flustered moments where, it was very much like Tommy Boy when he's just like, forget it, I quit. You were that. You wanted to drive the car into the bridge abutment, dude.
Yeah. Flustered, man. Well. Flustered. A couple of those. No, one story I hadn't told Watts this. Maybe he's not watching anymore, but if he is, I'll tell him this anyway now. But years ago, everybody knows about my camera fiascos at UGA. But the first summer I worked, the first preseason camp I worked for 24/7. Tim was like, "Hey man, we're going to get you a camera because we want you to, Gentry's going to write the practice reports. You put up the photo gallery." I'm like, "Gotcha, awesome." So I go out there, I get a bunch of practice, I get a bunch of photos first day, do a really good job. Second day, I go out there and I got to pack up the camera, get out there, take a bunch of photos. It's great. I'm just tearing it up. I get back in and go to pop the little top off the bottom and get the card out. It didn't have a card in it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I just snapped a bunch of photos to nothing. There were no photos. So what I did was I grabbed the card and I snapped it. I broke it. And then I put it back together just enough to where it looked like it was damaged. And I took a picture of it and I said, "I cannot believe it. My card got stuck in the camera and I had to pry it out of there. It's unbelievable." Yeah.
I've never heard that story myself. I did not know that. That is you
Yeah, that one was one that I was prepared to take to the grave. But that was that was a fun one right there. So I was checking, why are we still calling this Jake on Jake? I think we've gotten past that, haven't we?
What I think so. Here, let's just call it what it is.
Here, I got it.
All right. You handle it.
That's what we do around here. We Jake off. All right. This is what we do. Gather around, everybody get a comfortable seat and watch us Jake off.
Bring your own towel.
Keep a safe distance.
Yeah.
Are you prepared? Are you prepared?
I got one. Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, let's go. Go ahead.
All right. So I do food all the time. So I thought about a food question, but then something else came to me because it's not something we've talked about before. Let's assume you have unlimited budget. What are you going to buy vehicle wise? I don't know what I know you're a truck guy for sure. But if you can get your hands on something, and I'm not limiting you to trucks because that's what you're into. I'm saying you get your pick. You can get, 69 Chevelle. You can get whatever you want, man. Well, where are you going? Because you're a bit of a car guy. Yeah,
I know a little bit. It's definitely not going to be a car.
No, sure.
It's just this not. I'm not a car guy. Listen, you've had a profound impact on me in the Land Cruiser world. I will say that. I saw like a 78 Land Cruiser, I think it was the other day. Maybe it was a 79. That was it was a Land Cruiser with a bed, with with one of the back beds in it.
Yeah.
Dude, I loved it. I loved it so much. Like I looked in the windows and checked it out, and somebody had cleaned it up, and it had two. I think this thing might have been used to traffic humans. Maybe at some point it had two big long bench seats and that extended from the interior to the back bed. And dude, it was beautiful. Chrome rims. It was great. It was in awesome shape. I talked to the guy who owned it, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know how many like actual real miles it has on it. The odometer reads like 203,000." He said, but I think it's probably got like 150 more than that on it. But you've had an impact on me liking older vehicles but I will say my great grandmother used to have an old Chevy Scottsdale that she kept in such great shape. It had the woven bench seat in it.
Oh, and
when my grandmother was, my grandmother was in her 70s, and her name was Leona, and her sister was named Eliza Ann, and everybody called her Liza Ann. And my uncle Cleon, who was way too blind and dangerous to drive, but he did anyway. We used to Cleon, yeah, Cleon, yeah.
That's not
everybody we called him Uncle Cleon. You're talking about rednecks here, Jay. You were talking about the people that never lived on a paved road. They wore bonnets and dresses every day and did work that they didn't have to do. But we would all pile into that car and go grocery shopping at the Harveys in Pearson. And man, I love that truck, and I would love to have one. That would probably, if I could get one like that and pay to have it completely restored exactly how I want to have it, that's probably what I'd do.
You got me over here like digging around for them now, man. They are.
I can't remember what year it was. I want to say it was a 77 Chevy Scottsdale.
It's a beautiful truck.
Yeah, I think it was a 77.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and it was the two-tone gunmetal, this two-tone gray, with the fat white stripe and it was pretty much that one that just wasn't quite in that good a shape, but I can't really show it. I'm sitting there saying that one, and I'm not even showing it on the screen. But yeah, kick-ass truck, man. It was gorgeous. I'd love to have one of those.
If you had that today in that shape, I'm looking at these things, dude. These are like 40,000 plus.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to have it, and get a little 400 small block in it.
Sure.
Just chirping them gears. Little Joe Dirte.
Yeah, absolutely.
So earlier today, I was. What about you? What would you do?
Land Cruiser. That's what I want. I want, and for me, honestly, like as much as I love those really old ones, like the 70s models, to me, it's those late 80s, early 90s that are still kind of boxy and God, they're beautiful, man. And I'm really like having to talk myself out of it a lot here lately because there's the company I bought my current vehicle from, which is it's essentially the 4Runner, but it's got the turbo diesel in it and it's Japanese. They carry the Land Cruiser from the same era from Japan. And that turbo diesel is really the thing for me, man. Like I got so sick of having all these cars that were lemons, and that engine is like almost unbreakable. And so I'm such a huge fan and aficionado for those cars. To me, it would have to be a Land Cruiser. Just a badass tricked out one, man.
The other day, I heard I saw a post on Facebook, probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was talking about that Luke Bryan song, "Knock Knock Knock Goes the Diesel," where he says that in the song, and he's like, "Man, you better take that to a mechanic, brother." Just makes me, every time somebody mentions a diesel engine now, so it makes me think what it makes me think about. So earlier today, I was in the car and I wanted to introduce my daughter to some new music, and so I was like, what would kind of throw her off? And listen, I was never a big fan of this guy, even though I like some of his music, but I never was like Dean Legge and Ryan Dennis are massive Dave Matthews fans. I liked him fine. There was some of the stuff that really resonated with me, and I put it on every burnt CD that I could get.
Everybody, look, if you were making a CD for a girl, Crash was going on it.
Yeah, I liked Crush more. That kind of the more jazzy sounding song. I like that a lot more. Where Are You Going? I guess is a little bit more.
Oh, great! That's a great song.
That popped off whenever I was like in 2002, like my freshman year of college. Did you ever go through a Dave phase? And if you didn't, what did you think of guys who did go through big Dave phases?
No, I was I think I'm a little young to have had a Dave Matthews phase. When he was doing, when I was kind of coming up, like Where Are You Going was kind of like that was like my high school experience. Was that one. Every day, so I had to kind of work backwards into that older stuff.
That was the Electric album, if I'm not mistaken. That Everyday album was kind of like he had branched away from acoustic and did electric stuff.
Yeah, but there was a girl I was real into in high school who was really into Dave Matthews, and so I ended up listening to a lot of it. I think that's probably a common story for a lot of dudes.
Undefeated.
It's like it's like in Wayne's World where a lot of guys' girlfriends are in there, man. So I
shout out Rob Lowe.
Yeah, I never really got into it though, man. It's just not my thing. Now I've actually seen Dave Matthews live.
Okay.
I saw him. He played the Hangout Festival one year, And one of the most miserable experiences of my life was that concert, because people came in. Like I'd been twice, and like I'd seen Foo Fighters, Paul Simon,
Fighters.
Red Hot Chili Peppers had played. So like I'd seen some really huge acts. People came out for Dave Matthews like nobody else, man. I mean, I was watching it. We were so far back that the video screen we were watching was out of sync in terms of the noise coming from the stage. Like we were just buried in the back. And so I didn't dig it. Dave, I think it's got its place, but it's not something that I would just sit down and just listen to, man. Now, as far as people who went through that, to me, a lot of those guys. And
I want to stop you here. I want to stop you real quick, because what I'm talking about is are the guys who referred to him as Dave.
Sure,
like who I'm talking about, like the ones who had every album. They had Lily White Confessions. They listened to him every time they were in the car. And the reason I asked this is because I worked in a couple of restaurants. I worked at Zaxby's, was my first job that was not with my dad, and I worked at Ruby Tuesdays, both of which were in Douglas, Georgia. And both kitchens, dude, would blast Dave Matthews to.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Yeah,
like Dave people were sort of like, I don't know, they were like fish fans who took showers more frequently, like, I mean, I guess it's probably the best way to think about it. I mean, it was like a little bit, it was a jam band. Dave Matthews is like jam band for upper crust people, in my opinion. Right. Yeah. To some degree, he attracts a classier fan, in my opinion. But the people who got into, like, to me, I always thought of them as like a lot of those dudes who were real into Dave Matthews, like transitioned into like John Mayer guys. Like there was a lot of like, I can play Satellite on the guitar. Chicks dig that, like there was a lot of that to it in that whole time. I like I said, there's a lot of Dave Matthews songs that I really like. Mercy is a really good song. I really like that one. But and
another thing you got to give him credit for, because I've seen some videos and I've heard people talk about it. He works his ass off in every show. Yeah. Like I'm talking about empties the tank.
Did you know he's huge?
Like, what do you mean?
Like he's like 6'5".
No
like
way.
Dave Matthews is a big ass guy, man.
6'2".
Oh, 6'2"? Oh, I thought he was like 6'5". I thought he was huge.
Well, all I know is he kind of made some money later on in life with doing these Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah,
did a couple of Adam Sandler movies later on in life, which I always thought was kind of weird. The Dave Matthews and Dan Patrick.
If you can get in with Adam Sandler, you should do that, because there's a good chance he will feature you in a film.
Hey, good work if you can get it.
Were you into that though? I mean, were you like, was this
Dave?
Yeah.
Not really, but so I saw the song "Where Are You Going" and I played it for my daughter and she liked it, and I was kind of like, it just took me back to something I hadn't thought of in such a long time, and that was like the Dave people, like the people who just live.
What was a great song was "The Space Between."
Yeah, good song. That was off of that Electric album, that Everyday album.
Yeah, I love.
Like I know a lot about it because I had a lot of friends and was around a lot of people who okay, I got an alert on my phone. Joel Embiid scored 70 points tonight. So I was around a lot of people who just lived for him. Dated a girl in high school who was like super into it. I mean, it never got serious between me and her, but like she was just like, Dave this, Dave that. All I want to do is go to a Dave show. I actually probably listened to more John Mayer than I did Dave Matthews, to be honest with you. But
now you play a little. You pick a little guitar, don't you?
I don't pick any. I can strum a little.
Can you play Satellite?
No, God, no.
Oh, I feel like Satellite was like one of those like songs that like everybody who had a guitar played.
Listen, I tried to play a few Dave's things. Like I feel like, I mean, I'm not very good, so I'm sure there are some guitar players out there that'll like shout this down. But I always thought his stuff was really difficult to play. These little sausages didn't do very good at it. I know that.
I think dexterity may have been your issue.
Well, as our friend Noah says, lobster mitts.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about that.
All right, we've surpassed an hour. We've done it again. We've just sit here and talked and listened to ourselves talk and watched the numbers dwindle down to almost not. Nah, there's plenty of people hanging around. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary in a couple of weeks of Bark After Dark. We're working on a special guest. He's special to us. I don't know what you guys will think of him. Don't really care because, we love you guys, but we love us just as much. But listen. After we do that anniversary show that first week of February, we will be taking the rest of February off from Bark After Dark, piling up some guests, getting it ready to come back strong in March, April, before we take a month off in the summer. But for this episode, that's all we got. Y'all go to bed.
All right.